I walked in on them. Not caught a text. Not heard a whisper. I saw it. With my own eyes. My girlfriend. And my brother. My blood. My own damn brother. It's been 3 weeks and my hands still shake when I think about it. I hadn't planned to come home early. It was a fluke. A random Tuesday, a canceled client, and I thought I'd surprise her with lunch. Chicken wraps, her favorite. I even picked up that stupid green juice she likes. I should have stayed in the car. But I didn't. I parked, walked up the stairs, whistling like a fool, and used my key. Our place smelled like vanilla and lies. I remember thinking it was too quiet, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was napping. I walked into the bedroom. She wasn't alone. They didn't even hear me at first. Sheets rustling. Her laugh, that laugh I used to love. His voice low and familiar. And then the silence when they noticed me. 3 frozen bodies in a room that suddenly felt 10 degrees colder. She gasped. He sat up fast, yanking the sheet over them like that could hide what I just seen. I stood there, holding a plastic bag with chicken wraps and green juice, staring at the 2 people who had just blown my world to pieces. My girlfriend of 4 years. My brother. My best friend. My flesh and blood. Neither of them said a word. And neither did I. I just dropped the bag and walked out. The juice bottle rolled across the floor behind me like some twisted punctuation mark. I didn't scream. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't cry. Not then. I drove. Aimlessly. 4 hours. My phone buzzed, her name, over and over. Then his. I turned it off and kept driving. Somewhere outside of town I pulled over and just sat. The sun set and rose again before I finally went home. Not to our place. To my parents. That was 3 weeks ago. And I haven't spoken to either of them since. But that's not the start of the story. That's just the explosion. The real story? It started months before. With little things. Missed calls. Excuses. My brother dropping by randomly when I wasn't home. Her getting weirdly defensive about her phone. I ignored it all. Because love makes you blind. And blood makes you stupid. But now looking back, it all makes sickening sense. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always come with warning signs. Sometimes it hides behind routine buried under the everyday noise of life. At first, I thought I was just tired. I chalked up her distant mood to stress. Work had been rough for both of us. She was starting a new marketing position, pulling late nights. My own contracting business had me waking up at 5 a.m., chasing invoices, dealing with flaky clients, and broken deadlines. We were like 2 ships passing in the night, tired, overworked, just trying to keep it all together. But then came the first cracks. She stopped texting me during the day. Not completely, but the tone changed. Shorter replies. No emojis. No, I miss you. I noticed, but I didn't press. I told myself, she's just busy. Don't be that guy. Then, one night, I saw her flinch when I reached for her phone. We were on the couch watching some dumb reality show. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up fast and angled the screen away from me. My stomach knotted. She smiled too fast, too wide, and said it was just a friend from work. I believed her, or at least I forced myself to. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You choose trust even when your gut screams otherwise. And then came my brother. Ryan had always been around. We grew up close. He was only 2 years younger, the golden child, the smooth talker, always good with people. He and Emma got along well from the beginning. Too well, maybe? At the time, I took it as a good sign. I remember telling a friend it's awesome they like each other. Makes everything easier. God, how naive I was. He started coming over more often. Sometimes when I wasn't home. Just dropping something off, he'd say. Or Emma wanted help setting up the new TV. And I let it slide. Because why wouldn't I trust my own brother? Why would I ever suspect the woman I planned to marry of something so disgusting? But things kept piling up. I remember one night in particular. It was late, close to midnight, and I came home early from a job. I walked into the kitchen and found them sitting close, whispering, laughing at something I clearly wasn't a part of. They jumped apart like teenagers caught smoking. Emma said, "You scared us." Ryan chuckled too loudly. "Yeah, man, give us a warning next time." I forced a laugh. I even cracked open a beer and tried to join in. But something felt wrong. Off. Her eyes were too wide. His voice had a strange edge to it. That night, when we got in bed, I asked her, "You and Ryan talk a lot when I'm not here?" She turned away, already facing the wall. "Don't be weird." And that was it. I should have pressed. I should have looked deeper. But instead, I kissed her shoulder, said goodnight, and stared at the ceiling for hours. Because the truth was starting to creep in. And I wasn't ready to face it. Denial is a powerful drug. It keeps you numb. It whispers that everything's fine even when the walls are cracking. And I was high on it for far too long. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend. I didn't want to accuse my brother, the guy who shared bunk beds with me growing up, who helped me bury our childhood dog, who stood by me when our dad walked out of something so unthinkable. But deep down, something was shifting. The air around me was changing. The home I built with Emma no longer felt like mine. There were little things, so subtle I almost missed them. Her perfume on the days I knew she wasn't going into the office. The way her phone was always on silent, flipped screen down. The sudden password change. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said, "You're being paranoid. It's for work. I'm dealing with sensitive stuff now." I nodded. I kissed her. But a crack had formed in the foundation and it was spreading fast. Then came Thanksgiving. We always hosted. Small group, just the two of us, my mom and Ryan. Emma had insisted we keep it intimate. She made her famous cranberry stuffing, Ryan brought wine, and I carved the turkey. We laughed. We clinked glasses. It felt almost normal. For a moment, I let myself believe I was just being crazy. That maybe I'd watched too many crime dramas and my imagination was spiraling. But then, as I stepped into the kitchen to grab dessert, I caught them. Not kissing. Not touching. Nothing so blatant. But they were standing too close. Whispering. Her hand briefly touched his arm and they shared a look, a flash of something that did not belong between a woman and her boyfriend's brother. It lasted less than a second. But it burned into my memory like a brand. I dropped the pie. The plate shattered. Everyone jumped. Emma gasped and rushed over. "Oh my God, are you okay?" I mumbled something and cleaned it up, but I wasn't okay. Something inside me had shifted. I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to her in bed, listening to her steady breath, staring into the dark. I thought about hiring a private investigator. I even looked one up on my phone at 3 a.m., thumb hovering over the call button. But I didn't press it. Because part of me still wanted to be wrong. The next week, I tested her. I told her I had to work out of town for a couple days. In reality, I stayed with a buddy across town. I left early, kissed her goodbye, and then drove 15 minutes to a friend's apartment and waited. And sure enough, that evening, Ryan pulled up to our building. I watched from a parked car, my heart hammering in my chest. He buzzed in. She let him up. And they stayed locked inside for hours. No lights turned on. No movement at the windows. Just silence. I wanted to kick in the door. I wanted to call her. I wanted to run up there and make them see me, force them to admit what they were doing. But I didn't. I drove away. Hands shaking. Jaw clenched. And in that moment, everything died. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the performance. The way she still kissed me goodnight. The way she smiled at me like everything was okay. The way he still called me bro, slapped my shoulder, and said we should catch a game soon. They were actors in a sick play and I was the audience who didn't know the script. After that night, everything I saw felt staged. Every laugh was hollow. Every touch rehearsed. I started replaying memories like crime scene footage. That time they got too drunk at my birthday party and disappeared for half an hour. The text messages from Ryan I thought were harmless, memes, jokes, videos. The fact that she suddenly had girl nights every other Friday and Ryan always happened to be out of town on the same days. They thought they were clever. They weren't. I started collecting proof. Quietly. Carefully. I went through our shared laptop. I found messages she thought she deleted, fragments of conversations. Nothing overtly sexual, but enough to connect the dots. I can't stop thinking about that night. He's so clueless. Soon. That one word, soon, made my blood run cold. Soon what? Soon they'd be together? Soon I'd be out of the picture? I took screenshots. Backed them up. I even installed a small camera in the living room hidden behind a stack of books. I told myself it was to confirm what I already knew. But the truth is, I think I was hoping to find nothing. Hoping this was all some twisted misunderstanding. But within days, the footage confirmed it. They were too close. She sat next to him, legs touching, hands lingering too long. They spoke in low tones, eyes locked. And then, one night, they kissed. Full on the mouth. In my home. On my couch. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just watched that video over and over, each time feeling something inside me break a little more. My heart didn't just shatter, it rotted. Betrayal doesn't just wound you, it infects you. It changes how you see the world, how you see yourself. I kept asking, what did I do wrong? Was I not enough? But the truth was it had nothing to do with me. They were selfish. Cowardly. Spineless. Still, I didn't confront them. Not yet. I wasn't ready for the explosion. I wanted a plan. I wanted them to feel the weight of their actions. So I waited. I smiled. I pretended. I kissed her goodnight and hugged my brother the next time I saw him, all while planning the reckoning. It came sooner than I expected. A Tuesday. Ordinary. Forgettable. Until I walked in early, holding chicken wraps and green juice and caught them in our bed. That moment didn't destroy me. It confirmed everything. It ended the question marks. And it began something else. Something colder. Something sharper. After that day, the day I caught them, time lost its meaning. I moved through the hours like a ghost, disconnected from my own life. I didn't go back to our apartment. I couldn't. I stayed with a friend for a while, sleeping on his couch, barely speaking, barely eating. He tried to get me to talk, to open up, but what could I even say? That my girlfriend, the woman I had planned to propose to, had been sleeping with my brother under the same roof we shared? That I had made sandwiches for her while she was fucking someone with my last name? That level of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it erases you. It makes you question reality. Question memory. Question yourself. The texts came first. Emma sent paragraphs. Apologies. Explanations. She blamed stress. Blamed confusion. Said she never meant for it to go so far. That she never stopped loving me. I didn't reply. What was the point? There are no words that can undo a knife in the back. Then Ryan started calling. At first once a day. Then more. I blocked him. He switched numbers. I blocked those too. His last voicemail was the one that got to me. He sounded broken. Said he was in love and didn't mean to hurt me, like that made it better. Like meaning was the issue. As if slipping into my life like a thief in the night, stealing the one thing he knew would destroy me, could be excused by some tortured confession. The thing is, I might have forgiven him if it had been anyone else. A stranger. A fling. One stupid night. But this? This was calculated. Sustained. It wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. Again. And again. And again. I thought about revenge. Not just the usual stuff, not just screaming at them, burning their clothes, or airing the dirty laundry on social media. No, I imagined darker things. Destruction. Ruin. I wanted to hurt them the way they'd hurt me. I wanted to take something they loved and rip it apart with my bare hands. But I didn't. Not because I'm better than that, but because I knew it wouldn't bring me peace. Anger is a fire that burns everyone it touches. I was already scorched. I didn't want to turn to ash. Instead, I did something else. Something quieter. I gathered everything I had, the messages, the video, the records of his visits. And I sent it all to my parents. Not out of malice. Out of clarity. They deserved to know who their son was. What he'd done. What kind of man he had become. And they needed to understand why I would no longer be sitting at the same dinner table. Why I would not show up at Christmas. Why there would be no wedding, no family photos, no shared holidays. I hit send. And then I turned off my phone. I spent the next few days in silence. Trying to breathe again. Trying to remember who I was before her. Before him. Before all of it. The silence after betrayal is louder than any scream. When the dust settles, when the anger fades, all you're left with is the echo of your own thoughts. I spent a lot of time walking. Aimlessly. Through parks, empty streets, back roads I hadn't seen since high school. I didn't listen to music. Didn't scroll my phone. I just walked and thought and tried to piece myself back together. It's strange how your brain clings to tiny details, the way her hair smelled in the morning, the way he used to steal fries off my plate, the time the three of us went camping and laughed until sunrise. All those memories were now infected, hollowed out by deceit. I didn't know what to do with them. They didn't feel like mine anymore. They belonged to a version of me that didn't survive. My parents eventually called. My mom cried. She said she didn't know what to say, that she couldn't believe it. My dad was quiet. Then finally he said, "I'm sorry, son. I'm ashamed." That meant more than I expected. We've never been an emotional family, not with words anyway. But in that moment I felt understood. I felt seen. They told me they talked to Ryan. That he admitted it. That he said he was in love. My mom asked if I ever wanted to speak to him. I told her, gently but firmly, that I didn't know if I ever could. Because here's the truth, forgiveness isn't something you can fake. It's not a polite gesture or a checkbox on some healing list. It's real. And hard. And it takes time, sometimes a lifetime. Emma tried too. She showed up at my buddy's place one evening. He texted me while I was out, said she was on the porch crying. I told him not to let her in. When I got back, she was gone, but there was a letter taped to the door. I didn't read it for days. I couldn't. Her handwriting alone made my stomach turn. When I finally opened it, it was 4 pages long. Full of apologies, explanations, declarations of regret. She said she hated herself for what she'd done. That it wasn't planned. That it just happened. That she never wanted to lose me. But the damage was done. Her words were like water on a wildfire, too late, too weak. I didn't hate her though. That surprised me. I thought I would. But what I felt wasn't hate. It was emptiness. A deep, hollow space where love used to live. She had burned the house down and now she stood in the ashes asking if we could go back inside. There was nothing left to salvage. I didn't write back. I didn't call. I just let it die. Not with rage, but with silence. That was the beginning of something new. Not healing, not yet, but peace. A quiet, aching peace. I didn't know who I was without her, without them. That was the hardest part. Not the betrayal itself, but the identity crisis it left behind. For 4 years, Emma was my future. Every plan I made had her in it. Weekend trips, mortgage payments, maybe even kids someday. And Ryan? He was a constant. A fixture. My brother, my friend, my default. My world had been built with the assumption that these two people would always be in it. And then, in a matter of seconds, they both became strangers. Worse enemies in disguise. It felt like being evicted from my own life. Like waking up in a version of reality that looked the same but felt completely foreign. So I started small. I threw away everything that reminded me of her. Clothes, mugs, gifts gone. Not in a rage, not with a dramatic bonfire, just quiet disposal. I erased her from my home the way she had erased me from her heart. I deleted photos. Blocked her on everything. I even changed my phone number. It felt petty at first. But as the days passed, it started to feel like power. Like I was reclaiming something, no, rebuilding something. I went back to the gym. I started lifting again. Not out of vanity, but out of necessity. I needed to feel strong, anchored, real. Pain in the muscles felt better than pain in the chest. I took on more clients, buried myself in work. The money helped, sure, but it was the structure I craved, something predictable, something that didn't lie or cheat or disappear when I turned my back. I even started therapy. That part surprised me. I'd always thought therapy was for people with real problems, trauma, addiction, mental illness. I didn't think heartbreak qualified, but my buddy insisted. And after one session, I realized I'd been carrying far more than just Emma and Ryan. There were years of buried grief, old resentments, childhood wounds I hadn't touched in decades. Turns out, betrayal doesn't just crack your heart, it cracks you all the way down to the foundation. And through that process, through the walking, the working, the talking, something strange happened. I stopped thinking about them. Not all at once. Not every second. But more and more, my thoughts drifted elsewhere. To new people. New places. New possibilities. There were still moments, sharp, sudden ones, where her name would float back into my head or I'd hear his laugh in a crowd and flinch. But those moments passed quicker now. They didn't linger like they used to. They didn't cut as deep. I wasn't healed. But I was healing. And that, for the first time, felt like enough. Life after betrayal is not a straight line, it's a loop. You think you've moved on and then one scent, one song, one stupid memory drags you backward. I remember standing in line at the grocery store waiting to check out when I saw a bottle of that same green juice, the one I bought the day I caught them. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. I stood there staring at it, heart racing like I'd seen a ghost. It's ridiculous, isn't it? A bottle. A flavor. But it wasn't just the drink, it was what it represented. That last act of love, that final kindness I showed her, not knowing what I was walking into. Grief doesn't always hit you like a wave. Sometimes it sneaks in like fog, slow and disorienting. But for every moment like that, there were others. Stronger ones. I started noticing beauty again in small things. Morning light through the window. The silence of an early Sunday. A decent cup of coffee. I started talking to people again, not just the necessary words of work or small talk, but real conversations. I went to a friend's birthday party, my first social event in months. I was anxious as hell walking in, but I left with a lightness I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't talk about Emma or Ryan that night. No one asked, and I didn't offer. It was the first time I didn't feel the need to explain myself. That was a breakthrough. I realized my story didn't have to revolve around them anymore. I could let them fade. I didn't need to defend my pain or narrate my survival to strangers. The truth existed whether I spoke it aloud or not. And then, just when I thought the chapter had finally closed, I saw them. Together. It was unintentional. I was grabbing takeout from a Thai spot I liked and they walked in just as I was walking out. She looked thinner. He looked older. They froze. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but I just walked past. No words. No glance back. Just out the door and into the night. And the strangest part? I felt nothing. No rage. No ache. No jealousy. Just indifference. They were two people I used to know. Nothing more. I got in my car. put the bag in the passenger seat, drove home in silence. And when I sat down to eat, the food tasted good. Simple. Warm. It wasn't a victory, but it was peace. And sometimes that's more powerful than revenge. There's a moment somewhere deep in the healing process when you realize you've stopped surviving and started living again. It doesn't come with a banner or a trumpet blast. It arrives quietly like the first warm breeze after a brutal winter. For me, it happened one morning 6 months after the fallout. I woke up and realized I hadn't dreamed about her. I hadn't thought about Ryan in days. The weight I had been carrying, that constant, invisible pressure in my chest, was just gone. I sat up in bed and breathed in the morning air like it was new. Like I was new. That's the thing no one tells you about betrayal, how much it teaches you about yourself. I had spent so long defining my worth by the people around me. By how loved I was. By how accepted. And when the people closest to me turned into strangers, I had to face the terrifying truth. I didn't really know who I was without them. But slowly, through the silence, through the pain, I found him. The man I used to be. The man I could be. I started doing things for me again. Hiking alone. Taking day trips. Reading books I'd forgotten I bought. I even enrolled in a night class, something completely unrelated to work, just for the joy of learning. It felt good to grow in ways that had nothing to do with anyone else. Friends noticed the change. They said I looked lighter. Stronger. One even joked that I looked dangerously calm, like someone who had finally made peace with the chaos. And maybe I had. Not because it didn't hurt anymore, but because I had let it have its time. I didn't rush through the grief. I sat in it. I learned from it. And then, when it was done with me, I let it go. Ryan never reached out again. Not after that last voicemail. Not after I sent the proof to her parents. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't care. Emma disappeared too. Maybe they stayed together. Maybe they didn't. It doesn't matter. Their story ended the moment they chose each other over me. And mine? Mine was just beginning. Not the old story. Not the one that was supposed to end with a ring and a family and 2 brothers raising kids side by side. That story died, and thank God it did. Because now I had a blank page. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to pick up the pen. There was freedom in that. Power, even. Because the people who betray us, they don't get to write the ending. We do. And I was ready. I used to think closure meant confrontation. That I'd have to sit across from them one day, look them in the eyes, and demand answers, why they did it, how they could do it, what I meant to them at all. I imagined it so many times, standing tall, calm, unshaken while they squirmed under the weight of their own guilt. But the more I healed, the more I understood that closure isn't something you get from other people, it's something you give to yourself. It doesn't come in the form of an apology or a breakdown or some dramatic reckoning. It comes in quiet acceptance. In the ability to move forward without needing anything more. They owed me nothing. And I owed them nothing back. The man I am now would never accept the love I once begged for. He doesn't chase ghosts. He doesn't look for validation in the eyes of traitors. He knows his worth. He knows what he deserves. And he will never again tolerate less. That betrayal, it broke me. No question. But what came after? That made me. It stripped away every illusion, every false comfort, every mask. It left me raw, exposed. But it also left me real. The kind of real you can only become after you've been leveled to nothing and had to rebuild from rubble. I don't believe in fate, but I do believe in turning pain into power. I believe in choosing yourself when no one else does. I believe that sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is also the beginning of the best. And if there's one lesson I'll carry with me forever, it's this. Love should never have to be doubted. You should never wonder if you're being lied to while holding someone's hand. You should never have to question the loyalty of your own blood. And if you do, if you feel that shift, that suspicion, that tightening in your chest, listen to it. Don't explain it away. Don't gaslight yourself into silence. Trust your gut. It knows. I'll never forget what they did. But I've stopped letting it define me. Because the story? It's not about betrayal anymore. It's about what I built from it. And I swear, what I'm building now is stronger than anything they ever destroyed.